Spurs Bros. It's episode 10 coming at you. Not a great week of Spurs basketball, to be frank, but we got off that losing streak with a win against the Pelicans. So we're going to dive in a little bit more heavily on that game, talk about what's going right, try to not focus on what's going wrong. We've got a lot to talk about, though, off the court. We've got Chris Paul setting records. We've got Wemby making his name known, highlight galore. We've got Steph Castle up to second in the Rookie of the Year ladder. Zach Collins, it's hating hour. We've got a lot to cover this episode, so buckle up. Let us know on X what your thoughts are. If you agree, disagree with our takes, because there's a lot of takes this episode. Stay tuned. Again, throw us a shout out, give us a follow, thumbs up, like, comment, whatever it is. Interact with us. We want to hear from you guys on X, Twitter, on Instagram, on Spotify, and on YouTube. It's at Spurs Bros Pod or at Spurs Bros Podcast on all those socials. So give us a listen, tell a friend. But yeah, Spurs Bros, episode 10. Let's get it.
Alrighty, Spurs Bros. Welcome to another edition of the Spurs Bros podcast. I am your host, Alec Bogus. These are my co-hosts, Reagan Keogh, Tim Mendez, and Stuart Lynch. We made it to episode 10.
Episode 10, baby.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought we'd be here after 10 episodes? Not me.
Not me. Look at us. Look at us.
Look at us. Look at us.
Well, winning helps. If we were 3-18 right now, I don't know if we'd make it this far, but at least we're 500.
That's true. Spurs Bros who haven't been keeping up much with the season. The Spurs in our last 4 games, we went 1-3. We did cover on our last episode the Suns NBA Cup game, which we lost, a devastating loss. Not that it was close or anything, but it was just devastating because we had high hopes for it. And then we ended up losing to the Chicago Bulls and the Kings after that. So we dropped 3 straight before we beat the Pelicans on Sunday. So yeah, I think you're right, Stu. I think that's it'd be tough to be here after if we were, awful. But it feels just as worse that we dropped 3 games in a row and then 2 that we should have won, right? So did y'all watch those games? The Kings games, Chicago game?
Yeah, man. I mean, we felt that we were, I think all of us had us either a winning record or an unbeaten streak. That's what we predicted last week. Either 2-1 or I think 3 of us had 3-0.
Yes, I did.
So, thank God we beat the Pelicans. I'm here. I said I was going to take a month off or whatever if we had lost to the injury-riddled Pelicans, but I'm here. We squeaked that one out. But yeah, dude, the Kings game and the Bulls game was not a fun watch. If for the Spurs Bros out there that took a week off, if you had a busy week, couldn't tune into any games, this was the week to miss. That's for sure.
Yes. The Spurs gave up a ton of points to both Chicago and the Kings. I think it was 139 against Chicago, and then against the Kings, we gave up one more point, 140 points. That was unreal. We did not have Wemby. We didn't talk about this on the last podcast, but toward the end of that comeback against the Suns, Wemby did go down. It looked like it was his lower back. It looked like he was down on the floor. He looked like he was wincing. Didn't know how serious it was. Turned out he did miss those 2 games against Chicago and the Kings, and then he barely made a comeback against the Pelicans.
Yeah, when we all made our predictions last week, in all fairness, none of us knew Wemby was going to be out for those 2 games. So I think if we would have known that, all of us would have said either probably 1-2 or 2-1. But it's just tough to watch Spurs basketball without Wemby back there. Just takes us back to the years before him, to even last year with him out there. Just awful to watch. Not good.
You take out a focal point like him, and the whole team operates completely different without that focal point. It's like when we ended up dealing Kawhi to Toronto, and the entire team was built to function around Kawhi Leonard, and you take away that focal point, and everything just kind of falls apart. So It's the same kind of idea. Like our defensive schemes didn't work the same way because we didn't have the same rim protection and versatility that Wemby brings, with obviously Zach Collins and Bassey doing as good of a job he can. He's not Wemby on the defensive end. And the looks are different, right? They can key in on our shooters better. There's not as much facilitation. There's not that gravitational pull to Wemby to get everybody else those open looks. So everything about what the Spurs do this year looked different with him off the court, and it showed up in average, basically 2 games where he gave him 140 points and the offense was stagnant.
Dude, yeah, Zach coming in, has to fill Wemby's shoes. I know he makes enough money to where he thinks he can fill Wemby's shoes, but that's just not the facts. You even saw it. He got double teed up real quick. He was scared of all that, and then the game was pretty much over after that.
Yes, Spurs Bros. That's exactly what happened. Zach Collins against the Kings. He had his first start, fourth start of the year. He proceeds to get ejected from the game. What happened was, Spurs Bros, is that I guess this was his third foul in the first half. And the third foul, he was guarding Sabonis. Sabonis is a really tough player to guard. He's really aggressive. The third foul, it actually was a foul. You could see him, he had his arm wrapped around Sabonis's waist. I don't think they called it on the waist, like on that hold right there. I think they called it when he went up. But still, it's like, what are you complaining for, my guy? He gets over there and he talks
And then just keeps
the
yapping.
Yeah, and on his way to the bench after he's trying to get subbed out, he turns around and gives him a flick off. Oh, dude.
And if that's Wemby or someone else, the other boys are going to be stopping him. I think the team wanted him out, man. No one was stopping him from yelling at the refs. They're like, dude, Zach, just get your double T. Hit the showers early.
Yeah,
I don't know, bro. Like in a team setting, like you're never going to root for a guy to get traded like that. I mean, I think it takes a little bit more than just bad play for guys to want a guy to get traded. That I don't know, but he got fined $35K the next day by the NBA. Like that's a significant number. And honestly, dude,
this season he got fined earlier for flopping, so 2 fines for Zach this season.
Dude, but honestly, like I know the meme was going around with him, his middle finger up, and like it actually kind of broke out of Spurs Twitter. It was NBA Twitter. It was all over the place.
Yep.
But the fact that it was Zach Collins in a Spurs jersey with the middle finger up and like that made me mad because the Spurs that I've grown up with I'll be 29 on Friday. My entire 29-year life, it's been all about class and standing up and doing the right thing and sportsmanship and all this stuff. And here we go with a guy got his middle finger up to a referee in the middle of the second quarter because he got a foul call that he didn't like. Like, come on, man, grow up and hand up. That was me on the Spurs Bros podcast Twitter that night that said this might be the final straw that gets Zach Collins traded. And I hope it is because that's not a Spur in my mind. I'll say it again. Zach Collins, that is not the Spur thing to do. You don't look like a Spur. That's not what we're about. All the bad play aside, see ya. I don't like it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is old man yelling at a cloud session from me, but I don't like it.
Yeah, we already saw it before that Kings game. Mitch Johnson started to completely kind of take him out of the rotation. The Bulls game, I was excited when the starting lineup got announced. We were going small with Jeremy at the 5, but that ended up not working at all. Nikola Vucevic destroyed us that game. But, we saw Mitch going less and less or more and more away from Zach, and that Bulls game kind of forced him to go big again, or the Kings, and for the Kings game, because Sabonis would just do the same thing on our small ball lineup. So, yeah, whenever Wemby's out, we're just forced to go to him. And when Wemby's healthy, knock on wood, which is hopefully most of the time, he's maybe going to get 10 minutes a game from here on out, I think. So,
yeah.
Dude, even after Zach got thrown out there, remember I texted before next time, I was like, so we were talking, like Reagan said, it's not the Spur thing to do. Let's see if we sit him, this, that, the other. Kid still started the next game. So what's going on? Does the front office, does the coaching staff not agree with what we're talking about right now? That should be like an internal sit out a couple games, buddy, go home to your family type shit. You're getting thrown out for flipping off referees and stuff. Like, come on.
I think that's a how to win friends and influence people kind of thing. I don't know if you've read that book before. I know we're getting into self-help now, but
tell us, Alec.
Yeah, in the book.
All of our subscribers, comment below if you've read that book.
Everyone should have.
We'll put a poll up on Twitter when the episode drops with the title of the book. So let us know if you've read it or not. But Alec, tell us, because I bet it's a 0%. So enlighten us, please.
No, it's everyone should have. That's a classic book. In the book, the guy tells a story of a pilot who lands a plane and things go wrong, and he forgot to check, do double checks and how they do for pilots and however you land planes. And he almost had a fatal accident. And I guess his boss came up to him, and instead of being like, you're fired or what were you thinking, suspended him, he says, all right, you're flying the next day. Basically saying like he knows what he did wrong. And the fact that he gave him grace was like, oh shoot, like thank goodness for doing that. And I I promise I'll show up and I'll double, triple check going forward, sort of thing. I know I totally botched that story because it's been a long time since I read the book, but that's
I get
basically
the
the same
idea.
thing. Maybe that's what Mitch Johnson was thinking. He's like, oh, he'll never do that again. So I'm just gonna go ahead and act like that didn't happen.
I
So
would trust a pilot more than I trust Zach Collins. Frankly, dude. I feel like, dude, honestly, like I get it. There's frustration boiling. You're not playing well. I guarantee you he's hearing people talk about, Spurs, Twitter, media, whatever. There's buzz that he's not playing well and people want him gone. Like he's overpaid. All the noise is probably getting to him, but it doesn't matter. You can't react like that. You can't go flip off a ref because he didn't like a foul call. Like grow up, be a professional. He's a 6-year, 7-year guy. He should be past that. No excuse in my brain. So yeah, I'm not here for that.
no.
And to like Stuart, you're talking about like he got started the next game. I agree with you. I wish we could have done something different, but Bassie isn't a starting level guy, and it probably had to do with the fact that Wemby was out. Like our front court depth is so weak. We could go super small, but Vucevic had 40 against the 39, whatever it was. So I don't know. It's a tough spot, tough timing to send that message, I guess. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Now that y'all say that all out loud, it does. I know what I said last episode, which was, "Are we back?" And by the way, I almost changed the title in our podcast episode because as soon as I put that, we lost. We dropped 2 straight, almost 3 straight. I was about to be like, "Did I just?" I'm very superstitious. As a true athlete, you're probably superstitious as well. I was like, "Did I just jinx us big time?" That said, are we pretty far off as well from being a championship team, given the fact that whenever Wemby does go down, we look that bad, especially on defense?
We're not competing for a championship this year. That's a fact. And I don't think
Yeah.
anybody had that expectation. But to say we're super far off, I feel like we could be a couple moves in the offseason from really elevating this roster and being in contention next year. The West is stacked up. If I go look at the standings right now, we're 12-12 in the 11th seed in the West, but we are only 2.5 games off the Warriors in the 5 seed at 14-9. So everything is stacked up and as competitive as the West is. As long as we can keep above 500, we're right there. I don't think we're super far off, but we're definitely don't have the consistency and the legitimate roster depth to be a actual title contending team right now. That's just what it is. I think we're making good steps, but yeah, we're not a title contender yet.
I mean, for what it's worth, last season the Mavs weren't really title contenders fully. They were mid all season, and then at the deadline, they made 2 key moves who were starters for them down the stretch. And look what happened to them. So I think if we can stay around this, 8 to 12, if we're only 2 games back or what, even if over the next couple months we make strides and leaps and do better and are in the top 8 by the trade deadline, we all kind of think last podcast, we were all saying it's hard to see us getting beat in a 7 games, like swept at least, against any team in the West right now. I don't know. I mean, I think we've been saying we're a couple moves away. Well, why not make those moves now? We have all the assets that we need. We have veterans right now. CP3 wants to win. He doesn't want this to be a wasted year for him. I don't know how much say he has, really. But, if we're just 2 moves away, we have all these picks and money still, young talent to trade.
The right guys on the market, and we can get it for the right price and that the front office is comfortable with between draft capital and guys on our roster. There's a move to be made. I'm here to make a move, and we're at the point of the season where there's starting to be rumblings. Jimmy Butler's out there talking he wants to go somewhere else. Herb Jones, they're listening to offers in New Orleans. I don't think he's actually going to get moved right now, but we're getting to the point. So there's going to be guys available. I think it could be as stacked and close up as the West is. I think it could be a big deadline activity year. So yeah, I agree, Stu. If we're in a top 8 spot, we could go get somebody, make some noise.
And we've seen in the past couple of years, the Lakers have been the 8 seed. They're moving up. I feel like in today's NBA, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the Heat were the 8 seed for 3 years in a row, and they made the championship 2 out of those 3 years. So in today's NBA, I don't feel like seeding matters. You see it with the old vets; they're just trying to get in. That's where they're resting throughout the season. But yeah, so if we can be around there, man, when it gets into playoffs, it's all about coaching, making moves as the series goes on. And I would love to make some
and having the best player on the court.
Exactly.
Which we do a lot of the time.
Which we do pretty much every game. So if we're healthy still by then, I would love to make some moves. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, we're only a game and a half behind the 6th seed. And
Yep.
yeah, there's a couple of teams in front of us who I think are going to be up and down all year. Going into this year, I kind of thought it was a weird transition year where we're not going to suck like we did the previous 2 years. We're just going to try to be mid and maybe try to get 2 lottery picks, bring in 2 young guys in a stacked draft next year. But yeah, I kind of agree with you guys that maybe we should look to make a move at the deadline. There's going to be a bunch of Eastern teams that are going to be out of it. Brooklyn, Chicago, they've already made it known that they're probably going to trade. I think I texted you guys before the season about Cam Johnson from Brooklyn. I think he,
I
Yeah.
would love him.
but I don't know what that would mean for like Harrison or something in the starting lineup. And then you look at the top of the West, it's kind of weird too. Like Memphis is the 2 seed right now. Not that Memphis isn't good, but and Houston's 3. So yeah, it's a weird Western Conference this year. So I'd be down to make maybe not a huge move, but something that'll, yeah, maybe get us a 6, 7 seed. Yeah.
Kind of back to Dallas, dude. Their moves weren't huge. They were the right guys. It was PJ Washington. Like that's not some,
And Gafford.
all
Yeah.
and Gafford. Yeah, that's not two main moves, big names, but that was what they needed, and they came in and contributed big time to them. So, and we're all about that. We know that Spurs, other than pretty much LaMarcus, we've never made some crazy move. We're all about finding the right fit for our team, and yeah, I mean,
Michael Finley is a great example of that.
yes, yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of guys right now, who are going to be open between Utah, Tim, like you said, Brooklyn, Chicago. The Wizards have said they're open to trading guys. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of guys out there who could definitely help us in the long run and in this year if we're in contention.
Now, that's a good point. Y'all make good points. But does Pop being out and or him sort of looming around, he probably won't come back for the season. I mean, I haven't heard anything since, but does him being out and Mitch Johnson being the interim coach, does that change the math of how we do take risks this year?
I don't think it should. I don't, I'm not in the front office meeting, so I don't know what their stance on that is, but
Yeah.
I don't think it should make a difference. Mitch has been here for 6 years, and he's been in all the meetings up to now, in the draft room, in the trade deadline, in in-season meetings with the Holtz and everybody. Like he's aware of what timeline we're on. He's lockstep with Wemby. He knows where we're at. So I don't think him being at the helm right now should affect what our stance is at the deadline. I think, like we're talking about, it all is going to depend on how we can perform in the next 2 months and see where we're at come early February. If we really need to explore making a move where we're sending out guys like Branham and Jones and a first round pick for a reliable starter or sixth man type guy that can boost our depth. Yeah, I don't think we should, but I don't know where we actually stand on that. What do y'all think?
Reagan, I completely agree. I don't think we should, nor I don't think we will. I think it honestly kind of depends more on where, like you said, where we're at in a couple months. We're in it. I say we go for it. If we're still around this seed, 12 seed or so, and maybe we're 6 or 7 games back by then, I could see us being the ones to trade away some guys and soft tank because we've been talking about for years. We don't want this draft to not be our year. So I think it's a lot's going to depend on. It's not looking good for Chicago right now. It's not looking good for Atlanta. So this might be not what anyone wanted this year. Atlanta's looking like they're going to make the playoffs. God forbid a second round in the playoffs. So that's going to be a late teens pick probably. If we're right in the middle of it, we'll have a teens pick. Chicago's going to be a top 10 pick. So we're not going to get that. We're not going to get Charlotte. So I think a lot of it depends on if Atlanta's still looking good. If we know we're not going to be having a draft, I could see us either going for it this season and or even trading away some of our guys who have been on the block for a year now, maybe say Keldon or someone else, Branham, and kind of doing a little soft tank to where we get into the top 10, hopefully.
Ooh, yeah, sidebar, folks. I know we've been saying it. We've had a recurring segment, hashtag Hawks are bums, but they have been the opposite of bums since we've been saying that. They I believe, won their cup game.
I just watched that game.
Just beat the Knicks tonight. Yeah.
In New
They're
York.
going to Vegas.
No, they're going to Vegas. They're going to the semifinals, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They look good, man. Jalen Johnson is looking like a legitimate, deserving 5-year, $150 million
He might win most improved player this year. He might be winning MIP.
He looks damn good, fellas. I mean, Risa Shea isn't doing anything, but it hasn't mattered. Like the pieces It honestly, like, because this game was in New York against the Knicks, it reminded me of the Hawks run from 3 years ago or whatever, the one time that they've made a playoff run and got to the Eastern Finals. The way that they're playing and gelling in their attitude and stuff, and that was the year that they beat the Knicks. This tonight was against the Knicks in New York. It was a cup game. Like, it's given me vibes from whatever it was, 2021, when they went on that run the first time, the only time. So, hell of a time to say that the Hawks are bums when they've been bums for 3 years and all of a sudden they're like playing well again, but
Yeah,
whatever.
when we finally get their pick, finally 3 years later,
Yeah.
some ass.
We do have their 2027 pick as well, right? Is that also unprotected? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Unprotected.
26.
Pick swap.
Swap in 26. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Well, either way, yeah, that was a little sidebar there. That's quite unfortunate. Speaking of the Hawks, but yeah, I mean, the reason I brought up that original point about us being far away from a championship is because I guess I don't know. I was relating us back to the Big 3 days and how good we were back in 2012, 13, 14, when literally I think our bench could make the playoffs. I'm not even joking. Like we were so lockstep, we were so good together that it didn't matter if Timmy D didn't play or the whole Big 3 didn't play. We just found ways to win games. And so I was just thinking about that, are we far off just based off of that comparison? But then, like you said, Stu, comparing to, Dallas, they have to have their two guys or else they're not going anywhere. So are we more of a team like that going forward, or are we trying to build super well-rounded, deep at every position kind of way? That's the only thing I was talking about or thinking about. But speaking of this whole talk of trades and what to do,
Yeah, go in. Go in.
Oh
Go
man.
in.
Oh man. So Spurs Bros, look, I hate we did not start this podcast to alienate anybody. If anything, we wanted to bring together the Spurs coalition, the Spurs community, but it is so hard to ignore some people just being very, very, very ignorant on Twitter, X. I'm talking ice cold takes. And
Call them
speaking of,
out. Say it with your chest.
I don't even remember the names, but here's one, for example.
It's at Spurs Legion.
Okay.
At
Yes.
Spurs Legion. This is the Spurs Bros podcast where we say things with our chest.
Okay, that's fine. All right, you're right. It is at Spurs Legion. He says, quote unquote, "You're crazy if you say no to this. I say do whatever it takes." And the photo is Wemby, Chris Paul, and in the middle, you've got LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball, really? You would do anything? You're crazy if you'd say no to this? And then you've got somebody else, Reagan. You're probably more equipped than me to talk about this, but there was another guy on Twitter basically saying the Spurs are a poorly run organization, front office, decisions, executives have been making awful decisions, basically saying I would have been a better GM. I should be running the school, I should be running everything.
Yeah, it was the real Quan or the first Quan or whatever his name is on Twitter. His background picture on his Twitter profile says toxic. So that gives you an idea of what we're dealing with right now.
Okay. Right. So maybe we shouldn't even give him the time of day. But either way, looking into what he said, I think you asked him, he said, so what would you have done differently over the past few years?
Yeah, and what he said was he wouldn't have drafted Primo, which I agree. I wouldn't have drafted Primo either. That pick pissed me off, and we see how that ended up. He said he wouldn't have extended Collins. Anybody can say that, but the money had to go somewhere 2 years ago or 2 off seasons ago. Like nobody's happy about it, but whatever. I asked him who else was on his board because he said he wouldn't have drafted Wesley and Branham. Okay, dude, like we're picking in mid to late first round. These 6'4" guards aren't going to be franchise changing, but maybe you have a trade piece down the line. And those picks are what led our team to get Victor Wembanyama. You can't discount the moves that we made once we bailed on DeJounte and Derek White and DeMar DeRozan to put us in a position for a top 3 draft odds at the generational prospect that is now on our team.
Exactly.
And the last thing he said, which is kind of like the Spurs Legion part, he said, I would have traded anybody or whatever he said to go get Trae Young.
That's all
you gotta say, bro. You don't know ball. Don't know ball. Trae Young is a James Harden light. He's never gonna win a championship. Unsuccessful playoff basketball style. I don't want it. Get out of here. No defense. I can't stand it. No, absolutely not. Right. Trash.
Exactly. And so ran over. And so that's what I want to say here. This is okay. I'm going to relate this back to business again. We're going back to business. So there's a saying, we all have day jobs here, but in my day job, you say, hey, to build $1 million business is oftentimes not the same way you build a $10 million business. And then the same with if you're trying to build a $100 million business. And then the difference between a $100 million business and $1 billion business is just maybe time, right? It's just doing the same thing over and over again. But what those guys are saying, I would have done anything to trade for LaMelo Ball and or Trae Young. You're basically saying I want to build a $10 million business. It's like, how are you trying to build this organization? Obviously, our front office has the right idea in mind. These guys are thinking, oh, I want to be good now, but that doesn't look good come second round. I promise you. Like that
Nope.
second, I don't think we make a Western Conference with those guys. Definitely not LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball will definitely never be a winner. I think he just wants to make his money, go drive off in whatever Lamborghini or Bugatti he wants to drive off in,
Or his little go-kart.
and then call it a day. And
I would
be flashy.
I would take Lonzo Ball. He is
Facts.
completely different from LaMelo. Lonzo's a team player, probably better long term, low key. Like he's way more of an all around player. Plays defense, more than happy to assist. Yeah, I think LaMelo is all about himself. The complete opposite of what the organization stands for. He will never be a Spur. We're all aware of that. Who knows who's typing on Twitter, behind their little computer at midnight. But we're all aware of that. And if we were ever going to trade for Trae, it would have happened now. We showed who we truly have a stance on the future, not right now, by not taking Trae. So, again, I think if we ever make any of these big moves where it's going to be for a PJ Washington out there, a way more role player guy. Our future superstars, we're banking on Wemby, we're banking on Steph, and we're going to build around them. We don't need LaMelo. We don't need Trae.
I completely agree. Especially the asking price, what would be for LaMelo. No, I would definitely not do that. Like, the numbers that he puts up are ridiculous, but I mean, it happened when former Spurs assistant coach James Borrego was the head coach. He would pull LaMelo in the fourth quarters and barely play him. And I think it's already happened a couple times this season too, where Charles Lee, their new coach, he's also pulled him and benched him in fourth quarters. So, like, even the coaches know, like, if we want to win this game down the stretch, I don't know if he can be out there.
I mean, look at like we've got the Hornets pick. We're praying for them to win games and make the playoffs, and they're sitting at 7-17 in the 13th seed in a terrible Eastern Conference. Like, it's not winning basketball over there.
Exactly.
And to Alec's analogy, the Spurs and the current front office brain trust that is there. I mean, we saw Duncan in the draft room on draft night. Like, these are people who have built the billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
They've been there. They've done that. They know what it takes. These are overall good talent evaluators. You can't hit on every possible first-round pick in the late teens or early 20s to be some franchise-changing guy. It happens once, maybe twice a year, where you get a significant, reliable starter in that range.
Right.
So the fact that Brandon and Wesley aren't 25 to 30 minute, guys on a 45-win team, shocker, but they could be they could be good trade assets to upgrade the roster, like we're talking about the PJ Washington move, the Gafford move that Dallas made last year. So I have trust in these guys. Again, You cannot discount the fact that the moves that we made put us in a position to have the highest odds at getting Victor Wembanyama, and turn around, he's on our team. He's wearing a Spurs uniform, and he's happy to be here. He's going to be here hopefully his entire career, because we continue to make smart, calculated moves, not mortgaging everything for LaMelo.
Woo! That felt good, guys. That felt good. I like that.
I did.
That was good. And by the way, these people, they also aren't taking into account players like, and this is not a huge one, but Julian Champagnie. I just saw something today about Julian Champagnie is like top 3 in most points scored this season by an undrafted player. It's like him, Austin Reeves, and who is it? Van Fleet, I think it was. So,
for Houston,
it's little things like that I think add up.
And what do we see of Julian out there? He's not a big head. He's not talking to refs, talking shit. What do we all know about the Spurs brand of basketball?
Right.
It's not about talent. It's about the right fit. It's about having the knowledge, the IQ to be a Spurs player, to be in our locker room. You're a family man. We're not getting LaMelo Ball and freaking Trae. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, who have we drafted the last freaking Steph? What does Steph do out there? He doesn't want – Steph is probably gets the least amount of calls for how much contact is made a game
crazy,
in the whole
yeah.
NBA. It's absolutely insane how much he gets in the lane and gets no calls. I know he's a rook, but he's not bitching to refs about it. Wemby's a freaking superstar already. He doesn't get calls a game. He's probably been to the line 60 times this year, which is crazy.
Dude, yeah,
Freaking
the
Giannis
Pelicans
gets like 20 free throws a game. It's
yes.
nuts. Yeah,
The
so I mean,
Pelicans game, the free throws that Wemby had at the end where they fouled him on purpose, with 10 seconds left, those were his first free throws of the game. It's crazy.
it's nuts.
It's crazy.
So yeah, we know what we're all about. We're all about the right people who aren't going to complain to refs and want all the headlines and all that. We're about winning, and we'll happily be the underdog, happily fly below the radar, and we'll get our guys. There'll probably be no names, just like Champagne, but they'll show up and we'll win. But it won't be right now, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. Going back to drafting Malachi and Blake in the 20s. Like, yeah, maybe those weren't great picks, but 3 out of 4 years we had, I think it was the 29th pick in the draft. Each of those 3 drafts we came away with DeJounte, Derek White, and Keldon Johnson. I'm going to try, even late first round picks, I'm going to trust the front office to make some good picks. And
we got Tony Parker at 27 back in the day. It's been forever. Monte Ginobili at 57. We can get guys at that late round pick.
Well said. I like those end statements right there. So we'll take this to a more positive note, is what I'll try to say, is that we did win, as we alluded to earlier in the podcast. We did win against the Pelicans on Sunday, 121-116. That was a close game. And as Stu pointed out, Wemby wasn't starting, was he? Or he did start, but he went out again because of his low back pain. He went to the locker room. He wasn't the only one to go to the locker room. Stephon Castle, Zach Collins, who landed on his tailbone basically, and maybe a little karma. Who knows? Question mark. And Keldon Johnson. Yeah, they all went to the locker room. Man, it was tough because it looked like we were about to drop our 4th in a row. Turns out Stephon came back to the game and Wemby came back to the game, and they both dominated. Area 51, they absolutely killed it. Also in that game, history was made. Chris Paul passed Jason Kidd on Sunday to become the 2nd all-time assist leader in NBA history. And I think it was off of a Wemby 3, so that was kind of cool to see. So there were some good moments there. Do y'all have any takes on that game? I don't know if y'all saw that one.
What did you say during the game when everyone was getting hurt? What did you say the caption for this episode was going to be? The Spurs literally and figuratively getting their backs blown out. We were getting killed. We had like three guys go to the locker room for freaking back injuries. It was insane. We were down by like 20, 15, whatever it was. Wemby finally shows back up out of the locker room. He comes in like a superhero that he is, brings us right back. CP starts doing his thing again. Like you just said, Alec, congrats to him. But we ended up winning by double digits, I think.
121-116. Okay. And that was with a couple free throws late. But we made a couple of really strong plays. It was tied with about a minute left. And we locked up once. We got a great look at a basket. We made both of our free throws when we did at the end to seal it and win by 5. So it was a good finish. Pelicans are banged up, but we still got to finish that game.
Yeah, watching that game when all those guys, I was like, is this moment going to be the end of our season right here? Are we having Wemby who can't get over this back pain? Zach, whatever. But Steph, Keldon, go to the locker room. When guys get hurt, they don't always go to the locker room. Ours went straight back every time. So I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? Yep. So I was like, our season's done. I texted, this could be it.
Yeah,
right
we were
here.
Panicking.
Our season's over. Lo and behold, they all came back. We won. Thank God we're on rest now till Friday. But it was scary to see them all go down. Thank goodness it wasn't. Hopefully Wemby's isn't a lingering injury. Hopefully this time off right now. He's kind of resting, letting it get healthy. But thank goodness no one had real injuries. I honestly haven't heard about Zach's injury, what it was. But we all know my stance on Zach. So
okay. Him and Keldon are both like kind of day to day right now. They said it's nothing serious, but they're not yet sure if they're going to be able to play on Friday against the Blazers. So we'll see. But either way, it doesn't seem like a long-term deal for either one of those guys.
Zach's did look bad, I will say. Like watching that slow-mo replay, his legs were up such that it landed straight on his low back. It looked bad.
It was a hard fall, but if you've ever played football in your life, you're fine. Come on.
The hardwood's a lot different from that turf or grass, though, man.
Again, yeah, that like you said, that was a nail biter in the sense of that could have been a real momentum shifter for the season. Go ahead.
Two plays that were crazy. You said Area 51, where Castle went to go save that ball, and he just flicked it behind his back to Wemby for that dunk. Was the first highlight. But then the second crazy one, Wemby kind of set NBA Twitter, not just Spurs Twitter, on fire. He had that block at one end, and transition coming down the other way. We push, don't find anything. We find Vic trail, and he just decides to one dribble pull up off of one leg. Cash money from three. Insane, dude. Like, every time I see him do something like this at his size, I have to remind myself that would be like Boban doing something like that, because they're the same size. Like, or Bowl, like not Bowl, but like Manute Bowl. These dudes don't do that. They get the block, but then they come down. They try to fight for an offensive rebound. They don't come down and hit a one-legged three-pointer. It's crazy. We got like Alien is the only thing possible for this guy.
Pop was sitting at home watching, and he just started shaking his head, probably a little laugh, like, this freaking guy. Because he's all against those one-legged threes.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah.
But yeah, those were definitely the two close plays. The other thing, man, like Chris Paul is really endearing himself to the Spurs fan base and community. Like, I feel like the guys are really taking him in. He keeps mentioning how he's away from his family. I think it's really taking a toll on him. But the guys have taken him in, and they did up the big plaque and the ball when he set the record, or when he moved into second place all time past Jason Kidd the other night. And it was cool. It had the name of every guy he's ever assisted to on the ball and on the plaque. And they had a video that was like pre-done for some guys throughout his career, going back to the Hornets and New Orleans and the Clippers and everybody, saying what he's meant to them in his career, Peja Stojakovic and other guys. Like, it was really cool to see that. And in the locker room post game, he was real emotional, talking about what it meant to him, and he appreciates everybody kind of taking him in, and San Antonio in general embracing him after all the years of rivalry and stuff. I saw today, like, he's got an interview that's about to come out with Tony Parker. It's pretty sick, and I can't believe how quickly he's kind of come into the fold of San Antonio. It's pretty cool.
It is cool. And I'm one of them. I'm the one, again, we all talked about this to start the podcast when we first started mentioning it. We're like, we don't know how we feel about it. Yeah, okay, it'll be fun. Throw Wemby some lobs, teach some people some stuff. But yeah, man, it's been cool to see him play. And you know what? Has he been out, one game this year, knock on wood? I mean, he's played.
That's what we were talking about. At some point he'll be out, rest, lingering injury. And even we remember when he hurt his hand a couple games ago, he came right back in. They played I think it was on the start of a back-to-back. He still played the next night against the Lakers because we were like, oh, he might sit. I think he's proven a point that he's like, I'm tough. I'm 40 years old, and showing Steph, a 19-year-old, like, I'm a professional athlete. Play through some injuries.
Yeah. He has started in all 24 games for the Spurs this year.
That's just amazing stuff. But yeah, I'm a Chris Paul fan. I like him, man. I do. He's just been such a pleasure to have. Great pickup. Like I said, it's worth all the whatever $10, $11 million we paid him.
He said it before the season started. He's not a ring chaser at this point in his career. I don't think he cares about it anymore. He just wanted to go somewhere where he knew he was going to play. I don't think he loved being in Golden State last year, like coming off the bench and not getting as many minutes as he'd like. So yeah, and that post-game locker room celebration was really cool. He got choked up, and yeah, that was really cool to see. The plaque, the ball, like Reagan said, all really cool stuff.
Two other guys that I wanted to mention, sort of just based off of the Pelicans win, is Jeremy Sohan and Devin Vassell. Jeremy Sohan, since coming back, he's reminding everybody why we love him so much. Some people it's very hot and cold on Jeremy, at least from Spurs Twitter, at least from what I've seen online. I feel like most people love him and feel like he's basically untouchable. But my gosh, before he got injured, I'll read this to you guys. Before Jeremy Sohan got injured, the Spurs were 12th in offensive rebounding and 5th in overall rebounds. Both ranks dropped when he was out. In the 4 games since he's been back, the Spurs are 4th overall in rebounding and number 1 in offensive boards, which is invaluable, man. I don't know if you're
irreplaceable.
I seem to remember, obviously it's been a long time now, but I feel like even during the big 3 days, we were not a really great rebounding team. Yeah, I mean, we had Timmy D and David Robinson. We were great. But I mean, we weren't like the best rebounding team, especially offensive boards. We were not. I seem to remember that. I mean, someone looked that up and stat check me, but I don't know. I just love him being on here.
We were
And
probably like number one offensive rebounding team or a freaking
you think so?
every year,
You think that's
probably. No, I don't. I
I
don't know,
feel
but
I feel like you're right on the offensive boards, but I think we were consistently like one of the
one and
highest
done.
like net difference rebounding teams in the league because you don't win basketball games losing the rebounding battle.
That's what
So
mostly meant offensive rebounding.
yeah,
But
offensive. Yeah, but
yeah,
to that point, you're right. He's gone crazy on the offensive glass. He's coming in like a freaking demon bat out of hell
yeah.
on the offensive glass. I think they've completely turned him loose to go get those tip ins and stuff, and he's doing a really good job of it.
man, I'm super indifferent when it comes to Jeremy. I don't know, and I'm like Spurs Twitter. I love him on some games. I hate him. It's just his offensive game there, unless it's getting those offensive boards and putbacks, then that's how he was averaging 18, 20 a game. They were all coming in the paint at the start of the season before his injury, and it all looked great, but we also weren't, like 6-0 to start the season. We've still been 500 either way without him.
I hear you. I hear you. Remember last year when he came out of the gates and like we had just learned that he was going to shoot these free throws one-handed and he was starting to change his shot and everything, but he was shooting like 34% from three for like the first 20 games last year, albeit we were a terrible team. We're in the midst of a 20-game losing streak, whatever it was. But if he can catch one of those streaks, because like we know it's in him from three-point land to shoot 33% for a stretch of 10 games, when it's important. If he can pull that out of him and start to build that up on top of what he's doing now, dude, that's a game changer. That's a
Yeah,
game
man.
changer.
If we can get Bruce Bowen in a gym with him and set him up in that corner, each corner for a whole summer, and just do what Bruce did, be our absolute lockdown defender, and then just stand your ass in the corner, let the other four guys move, whatever. Eventually, your guy's going to sag off. If you can be a 40 to 50% 3-point shooter from the corner, then that's irreplaceable because his defense is so good. He can guard a 1 through 5. But just until he can do that, it's just so tough. It's so tough to see our future winning basketball, winning championships with him being a major part of the team in today's NBA when people are putting up 120 a night. If he just, I don't know, he can't be a shooter, it's hard.
I agree. Developing that corner three would be huge, but I don't think sitting him in the corner like Bruce Bowen did would be the best thing for him either, because he does have skills as far as setting screens and being a connector and crashing the boards and finding him in different spots, cutting, flashing, backdoor, lob. Like he has all that stuff. So yes, if you want to pick a skill to develop him, corner 3-point would be fantastic. But I don't think you can't like just sit him there either for a whole 20-second shot clock or 20 seconds of the shot clock. I don't know.
I feel like, and I think I mentioned this too on a previous podcast, but I feel like last year his shot looked, number one, better, more fluid. And I think he took more threes last year around this time compared to this year. I think maybe that they're not even putting him in spots to even take threes.
He was taking more last year for sure. I mean, Wemby's taking like what, 9 a game now. So
yeah, he's
those
taking
attempts aren't there for others.
True.
Or he doesn't have the green light anymore.
That too.
Yeah, probably that too.
Yeah, I know he's never going to be as good of a passer or facilitator as a Draymond Green, but that's how I've always kind of wanted him to play. And whenever he is at the 3-point line with the ball, if they're just not going to even try to guard him, yeah, I would love, like Reagan said, like 33%. That's what I've always wanted from him from three. So yeah, hopefully he keeps working on that shot. I mean, it sounds like he's working like tirelessly with that shooting coach. So I'll continue to have some faith that he'll get to around 33%.
There you go.
Because 33% from three is equivalent to 50% from two. So if he can shoot 33% from 3-point land, then I'm gonna live with that, every day and twice on Sunday kind of thing. So
yep. And last guy I wanted to mention before we look ahead to next week is Devin Vassell. He didn't play particularly great game against the Pelicans. Pretty quiet night, 7 points, a turnover, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, and a block. he did I think it was after practice, just yesterday was talking about him, wait for it, embracing coming off the bench. So Stu, congratulations, buddy. I think maybe what if the Spurs organization is sort of starting to hint to him, hey, you know what? You could be the guy coming off the bench. You could be our sixth man and can turn it up. And he did mention that. He said, man, I like coming in, and we've had slow starts, of course, but I like being able to turn it up and be that energy plug and spark plug for us. So very funny. Just want to give a
And
little shout outs to.
in a world where all game, if we have him or Wemby on the court, that's our two best scorers right there. So I mean, that's kind of what we need. If they're both starting, well, that can be the whole fourth quarter. But if they're
Yeah.
both starting, they have to come out. Like I've been saying with Wemby the past couple pods, it goes to shit. So I mean, yeah, I think he's our best bet to have off the bench. He's our best scorer, and hopefully we help him. We trade some guys, do whatever, get our bench better. But I think for now and for the future, I could definitely see it, and I want it.
Reagan, you got a couple of links up here.
We talked about this last week a lot. Tim was pointing on this, the fact that the slow starts have become a problem. And ESPN puts out their power rankings every week for the NBA, and Spurs dropped from 15th down to 18th. And Michael Wright said that our biggest issue was the slow starts. So we called it a week ago. It's not just us thinking this. And what he wrote in here was part of it is inconsistency with lineups, considering San Antonio still hasn't played with the starting five it envisioned coming into the season due to injuries to Vassell, Sohan, and Wemby. But the Spurs have also lost the opening quarter in 10 contests, owning a net rating of minus 31.4 over 120 first quarter minutes. It's an issue San Antonio recognizes but hasn't been able to solve. So again, we're touched on this again, but have y'all seen anything different? Stuart's the lineup guy. Tim has acknowledged the slow starts. Alec, do you see anything, or do any of you guys see anything else that we can maybe change or adjust, or what's going to work to fix this problem? It is our biggest issue.
Keep Wemby on the floor.
48 minutes.
No, but at least that first quarter, like I've been saying, I mean, all the All-Stars play the whole first quarter pretty much on every team. I know for us, it's Wemby's conditioning problem, but I keep saying it. Yeah, we keep losing that first quarter, and guess what? Then we win the second quarter. We've been winning the third quarter this year, and that's how we've been winning games. But Wemby's on the floor most of those quarters. The first quarter, every game, he's out by 6-7 minute mark, and then we lose the quarter. So that's really as easy, as simple as I see it. I'm sure there's more in depth to it, but in my opinion, we're doing fine the first 5 minutes of every game. Wemby goes out, it's all downhill the rest of that quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wemby, yeah, you're right. He does usually come out around the 6 minute mark, which, yeah, that's always seemed just too soon to me. I don't know why he comes out so early. And I think Wemby always starts out these games kind of feeling it out. You
Yes.
know, that's when he's more perimeter. And then I think as the game goes on, then he usually tries to establish himself more in the paint. So, yeah, it's just a lot of poor shot selection in the first quarter, especially first half of the first quarter. So, yeah,
Yep.
that needs to tighten up.
Totally. And if you're an athlete, if you play basketball, you know that sometimes like quarters will just fly by you if there's not a whistle or, just the way that the game flows, you don't get a shot up. And so, yeah, many times you could just see Wemby not, shooting much, or maybe he's just cold to start because, like you said, Tim, he's starting off on the perimeter. He's trying to feel out his touch for the game and who's playing him on defense. But there's many factors that also contribute to him also starting slow to begin the game as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it could just be an attitude thing of just, I don't know, hopefully relying on everybody else, all of our role players to come in and step up while we get that second rotation in for Wemby, right? When he comes back in late first quarter, was it end of the first or beginning of the second, sort of when he comes back in?
So I think y'all all made really good points there. So to go back to tweaking this, because yeah, like sometimes the sub will come up to the table with 7.5 minutes. There happens to be an immediate whistle. You can't control that, like Alex said, and he's played 4.5 minutes and he's out. That's crazy. And like you said, like all the other top flight guys are playing 9 to 10 minutes at least of that first quarter to establish themselves in the game. So if we say, okay, Vic, we need you to come in and play until the 2 minute mark of the first half. You'll sit the first 2 minutes or the last 2 minutes of the first quarter, the first 3 minutes of the second quarter, and then you're going to finish out the half on another 9 minute streak. If we can change his conditioning to get there, that's going to limit the backup minutes where it's either Mamu or Bassi or God forbid Collins. But we can make those adjustments there. But yeah, I think you're onto something, Stuart. If we can get that first stretch of Wemby to be deeper into the first quarter, maybe not the full first quarter. I don't think we need to do that yet, but yeah, getting him at 9 to 10 minutes before he's getting pulled could have a big effect for us.
Sorry, I know his condition isn't the best, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's the start of the game. He should have been low key, like chilling all day, his little nap before the game. Like, he should be ready to freaking rock and roll the whole first quarter, at least 7-8 minutes of it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I would get the second half if he, like, first 5 minutes of the third quarter, sit him the rest of the third, and then play the fourth in the game. But just after a full day of hanging out, whatever, I know the hour before the game you start warming up, but he should be conditioned enough as an athlete at 21 years old, 20 years old to be able to play 8 minutes, especially when there's fouls. It's like it's basketball. It's not just completely up and down. Let's call timeout with every game, 7 minutes left in the quarter. Call timeout a full. Let him sit for 2.5 minutes. And then in real life, if he gets taken out with 3 minutes left in the first quarter between timeouts, commercial breaks, into first quarter, go into second, that's probably a good 15 to 20 minutes of sitting on the bench before we'd have to go back in the second quarter. I just don't get how he's not freaking conditioned enough to play more than 5 minutes to start the game.
That's really good, dude. That's actually a really great take.
Gets me on fire.
We were complaining about that last year when he was a rookie, like the first month of the season. Like, why is he getting pulled so early?
Yeah.
And it still hasn't changed. I don't know why.
I just don't see us being a championship team until and I know right now he's getting probably around 30 minutes a game, and sometimes like 35 if it's a close game. He plays more the fourth quarter, but still, last 2 years up until now, since he's been a Spur, his first half minutes have been basically those perfect set time minutes, and not working out. Obviously,
I think
it's tough. We're literally playing Stefan like he's playing the star role on our team right now, minutes wise. He's playing those first like 10 to 11 minutes, sometimes even the whole first quarter. But still, it's got to be Wemby's got to get more conditioning or whatever. Or maybe, who knows, maybe behind closed doors he's bitching about this too. And that, we always heard come into the league, he's like the best player on the floor for 2 minutes, and that I wonder if we're still in that mindset. Like he's only amazing in spurts. We want him to sit, and then because he comes in those last 2 minutes, and maybe they in our brains or whatever, Wemby's gonna be that he's gonna put up 10 points and four rebounds and 2 blocks in those last 3 minutes and be a complete changer. But it's just not happening. Europe and the NBA is a completely different ball game. And he still can go crazy for 2-3 minutes, but I think it'll be in the middle of being on the court for 10 minutes.
The spurt thing, 2 minute spurt thing, I get it, but not all the best players played the first at least 9 or 10 minutes of the first quarter. So I still think that's where he needs to get to.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything else to it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So
and then if we're still having all those slow starts and we're the worst start team in the league, then screw it. We can't do anything about it. But at least we know we don't be having this argument about it.
Well, I think to be a championship team, we got to be all 48 minutes. Like we said last year, it was the third quarter. We patched that hole, but now we're kind of playing whack-a-mole. Now we got to tackle the beginning start.
Yeah, Celtics. Last year, you see it with Celtics. You see it with like the Nuggets. You see it with all the past championship teams. Either Jamal Murray or Jokic is on the floor all 48 minutes. One of the two. Either JB or JT is on the floor for the Celtics all 48 minutes. They even them out. And then for like Giannis or Dame is on the floor for all. You see it with all the championship teams of the past years. I'm pretty sure the Lakers do with the LeBron and AD. One of them's on the floor at all. So like. We just have to have, I don't know who our second guy is right now either. That's what we're saying, Devin, but still, they both play usually at least 8 minutes the first quarter.
I'd like to see, like we said, I'd like to see us get a longer stint in the first quarter for Vic to give him more of an opportunity to make an impact before he goes to the bench.
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah, the last thing that I guess I'll say, and it's probably apparent, but just to say it, is that I think the one position where we have the least amount of depth, or especially where there is the biggest drop off, is the five.
Yeah.
So having Wemby on the court, because like Wemby will come off and the starter for the other team is still out there. So um, having that matchup being a win for a lot longer should help.
And I'm
Yep.
down to make some subs at 8 minutes. We're all about Spurs are always about our depth and
Yeah.
our team ball and all that. It just can't be Wemby. Wemby's literally the first man subbed out of every game, both
Yep.
teams wise. It's crazy.
Yeah. Also, that must not feel good back of the mind too. If you are, if the clock is running fast, I'm probably always thinking back of my mind, okay, I
Yeah.
got a minute left. I got 2
Yeah.
minutes left.
Let-
And
let
I
me-
want
let me-
one
It's a
shot,
great point.
2
Yeah,
shots up.
let me chuck up a couple shots before we have some points before. Yeah,
I
he
know I'm the
knows.
first one to come out. Yeah, and you got to
Yes.
start. You kind of feel like you have to force something, or it's weird. I can totally see that
That's a
subconsciously.
great point.
Yeah, interesting. I think we kind of put together something that's really good to kind of.
Let's clip this, send it to Spurs
Send
Spurs
it to Mitch.
organization
Yeah.
email. Yeah. Show them, guys,
Hey, Mitch.
take us. Yeah, listen to what we had to say.
We'll go meet him at the bars again, wherever he was. Say, hey, I want to see this. So, last 2 things I want to mention is one thing I am grateful for, and one thing I do not like. So, things I like and thing I don't like. Thing I like is we've mentioned him already plenty of times on this podcast. I am a huge fanboy at this point. Stephon Castle, I just love him to death. He's definitely probably number 2 behind Wemby, my favorite player. I don't know. He's getting there almost even just because I love how young, how aggressive he is, and how he's just coming in and making a difference and an impact on our season. You've got him at from the last rankings as number 2 in the Rookie of the Year race. So that's great. I love it, man. And what's even better is I just came across an article on the front page of Google today that says, I think it's time to send Reed Shepherd to the G League. And I was like, yeah, thank God. Thank God. It was just some random article. This is just, I don't know if that was just clickbait or what. I haven't seen his stats or anything, but it's just, what a win, baby. What a win. So that's just something I like. We picked the right guy, obviously.
Dude, we talked about it a couple pods ago, or even a lot of pods or whatever, but it was just a tough situation for Reed to go into low key. They're just so guard heavy. Honestly, Reed could be having the same effect if he would have been a Spur. Like he could have been the Stephon effect. Obviously, not as good a defender and playmaker, but like he would have been getting the minutes. I don't think he's even had a chance really on this Rockets team. So it kind of sucks for him. Low
Yeah,
key.
you took the words out of my mouth, Stuart. They got Van Vliet, Green, Thompson, and a bunch of other guys Dylan Brooks that can contribute at that guard spot. So it's hard for him to break in those meaningful games. And they're second in the West, or third in the West. Why are they third in the West? So what they're doing is working. And if Reed's not going to get those minutes, send him to the G League to get that development. But I liked him at Kentucky, so I hope it's not an indictment on him overall. But
Yeah, we
as long
just
as
hate
he's
the
in a
Rockets.
Rockets uniform.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're rich. Who gives a shit? Go play in the G League, bro. You got your money. You're fine.
True.
Yeah, he'll be good. He'll be good.
True. And the thing I don't like is, I get haunted, kind of like the 2013 Game 6 Ray Allen shot. Every time I see this come
Why?
up, I just get a little bit of chills. So 20 years and 2 days ago, T-Mac went off for 13 points in 30 seconds to beat the Spurs while he was in Houston. I don't know if y'all have a story about this, but my story is I remember watching that whole game as a kid and going to bed. Literally, my dad was like, "All right, go to bed. You got school in the morning." And I got up. My dad was driving me to school, and I don't know why. I just figured we would have won the game, and I just so happened to ask him right before he dropped me off. I was like, "Hey, yeah, so the Spurs win?" Oh yeah, no, we lost. Yeah, we lost. T-Mac had like 13 points in 33 seconds or whatever. I was like, "What?" And then I saw it on ESPN that day, and so it's haunted me ever since.
Oof.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
I think I do remember watching that game. I think I watched the whole game. Disbelief that was crazy. That's never happened before that time, and I don't know if it'll ever happen again. That was nuts.
I know. So Just a quick little, this date in history.
I had no idea where you're going with that T-Mac story, but yeah, I don't really have a memory of it. But as a hooper, anyone who balled as kids, we all loved T-Mac.
We love
Probably
T-Mac.
all owned a pair of his T-Mac ones at some point or T-Mac twos, but you know, good for him. He beat us one game. I don't know what year did we win the championship that year.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I don't give a shit. They were probably like 30 and
Or
50. So
04. So that was the
okay,
Pistons year.
04. Tough, but it
Well,
is what it
no.
is.
If
Oh,
it's
four,
20
oh,
years
five.
ago today, yeah, it's 0405. So we did win the
We
championship.
did.
We won.
Yeah,
So
against the Pistons. Let's go.
and
And
maybe it was the best thing that ever happened to our team that year. Maybe it opened our eyes like, oh shit, we can't. Got to make free throws down the stretch. Can't take
Gotta
it for
close.
granted. Yeah, who knows?
there you go. Look at you, Stu. Very evolved take. I wanted to look ahead for the next few games. We play the Trailblazers on Friday. Stu, for those who don't know, Spurs Bros, Stuart is living in Portland for the time. So he'll be there at the game
I'll
on
be in
Friday.
attendance. Let's go.
Oh, come on, baby.
I'll get some picks. Gonna wear my Keldon jersey. Maybe I'll get some boys to sign it. That'd be dope. Might just throw Ryland to Vic and say, "Bro, get a pick with my son."
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Sign
We'll
my
see how it
baby.
goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Should be dope. It's a guaranteed win, but it's gonna be fun.
You can see the number 1 and number 2 pick go head to head from last year's draft.
There you go.
One will be high and one will be sober and dominating.
We'll be scooting out the league here
that's
pretty soon.
just facts.
No, I was just gonna say 1 versus 3, right?
Oh, 3. Yeah, that's right. 3.
Oh, 3? Brandon Miller was 2.
Scoot was 3. Yeah.
So Trailblazers on Friday. Hopefully that's a win. We're playing East Coast or West Coast, sorry. So that'll be a late game. And then we got the Timberwolves on Sunday, December 15th at home. And then we'll look ahead again. I know we're going to be recording one episode in between then, but on that Thursday, we play the Hawks. Our first matchup against the Hawks at home, Thursday, December 19th. Please, for the love of God, please win so we don't look like idiots.
Have to eat so much crow.
Hawks are bums.
So
Yeah.
only 2 games until next pod?
Yeah,
correct.
just 2.
Well, then I'll start us off. I'm feeling good about this week. I'm on fire. We're going 2-0. I know a lot of people are going to be thinking 1-1. The Timberwolves are hot right now. They're one of the hottest teams in the league. They're winning a lot of games. But I think we take a win. I do think we take a win. We're going to have Jeremy. We're going to be healthy. Jeremy's going to be locking up Ant. Wemby takes a personal over DPOY last year. So Wemby's going to be going at him. I love the matchups in that game. You got 2 old guards. I like it. I think Chris is better. We're going to take a dub that game too. 2-0 on the week. And anyone tuned in Friday night, be watching for your boy on the TV.
Yeah. Honestly, make a poster. Spurs Bros Pod at Spurs Bros
Oh,
Pod.
that'd be
Dude,
sick.
yeah.
See if you can get Sean and Toby to shout you out on
That'd be
camera.
sick.
I think I'll say 2-0 as well. They are all, by the way, Stu, you said they're one of the hottest teams in the league. I think they're 12-11 right now, 9th seed, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. So,
What about the last 5? Are they like 4-1, 5-0?
4 in a row before dropping to the Warriors. Yeah.
Okay, so
They beat the
We're hot.
Clippers, Lakers, Clippers
I know
again,
ball.
and Warriors.
Don't question
before
my
losing to the
knowledge.
Warriors.
all right, good point. All right, 4. Okay.
All right. I will say 1-1. I'll say we win Stu's game in Portland. And yeah, I think we drop. I think Minnesota gets some revenge on us, but hopefully we get another little scuffle between Jeremy and McDaniels or something.
Oh, baby.
Hopefully it gets chippy again. I'd love to see that. But yeah, I'll say 1-1.
Yeah, I was gonna say 1-1 also, but I've been inspired by Stuart and Alec over here. So let's say 2-0. But yeah, like you mentioned, Tim, I think the key matchup is honestly, forget everybody else. I think the key thing will be the battle of the tone setters. Sohan versus McDaniels. Who's going to win that fight? Who's going to get under whose skin first? Because McDaniels is a key part of their defense and what they do all over the floor. So if Sohan can even that out or win that matchup, I think we have a great shot at winning. So yeah, I'll say 2-0.
I think Wemby's got Governor's number now. I think he does, dude. Ever since he was 16 years old. That's the first, by the way, that's the first video I ever saw of Wemby was him schooling Rudy Gobert at 16 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
I think he's always had his number. So I think, come on, take it one more time. Why not? Yeah, just get a dub. And then we don't have to shut down Ant. Nobody's going to shut down Ant unless he shuts himself down by just not shooting well. But, contain him, play well, play some defense. Let's go.
All right. Well, hopefully we're coming back here 14-12 next week as we head into that game with the Hawks. But yeah, keep up with us on X, on Instagram. If you like what you hear on YouTube and Spotify, give us a shout out. Hit that follow button, hit that like button. Trying to grow our audience. We've got our first international listener in Brazil, so we want to keep growing that reach. We really appreciate the support so far. But tell a friend. And from the Spurs Bros, go Spurs, go.